I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that, in general, Hollywood doesn't do much with foreign actors because there's so many wonderful foreign actors and so underutilizing them, I feel. I get it. Some people would be like, well, what would a German be doing in America at this time? Or like, how could you make me believe this? And I'm like, well, that's the magic of movies. You can suspend your disbelief for a little bit, or the writers can be a little bit smarter and make it work. But yeah, it's such a shame. And some movie they sit there, I'm like, oh, this actor's going to be in it. Like, I remember them from this movie. And it's like, oh, they're only in it for like 5 minutes. That's a shame. They sit there and say America is supposed to be like the land of everybody, that immigrants can come over. And it's like, seems very fully just Americans. Like, why can't there be a German living in New York City? What's wrong with that? Like, I know quite a few British actors are living in like LA, like Ben Barnes and Dan Stevens. Like, they've made a home in America, and a few other actors in other places. It would work. It would make sense. It's not totally crazy. I had gotten into The Alienist with Daniel Brühl, obviously. And it makes sense, like, if someone was like, well, how could they be born in America but still have an accent? Well, his character is raised in a home where his parents are German Hungarian, and he was raised with being taught German. And if that was pretty much what you spoke for most of the time, you would grow to have that sort of accent. So I think there are ways to utilize foreign actors in American media. I just don't think that they're smart enough how to use it outside of German, Nazi.
Really a shame. Like, if I think about Finnish character in a Hollywood film, they just hire us to be Vikings. The fact that I lived in Germany many years ago, I do remember thinking that Germans are very family-oriented and very welcoming. And I always connected that Friedrich's character, Louisa May Alcott. She traveled in Germany and she was a full-hearted Germanophile. The sponsor of this episode is Etsy. On Etsy, you can start your own shop and reach their millions of customers. With the link in the description, you can add your first 40 listings for free. Our second sponsor is bookshop.org. Bookshop.org works to connect readers with independent booksellers all over the world. They believe local bookstores are essential community hubs that foster culture, curiosity, and love for reading, and are committed to helping them thrive. Every purchase on the site financially supports independent bookstores. The platform gives independent bookstores tools to complete online and financial support to help them maintain their presence in local communities. You can find the link from the description as well. Really horrify her because she loved Germany. And you get stuff like Emily in Paris, where you're not honoring French culture, you're making fun of it. It's so disrespectful. I hope that somebody out there is going to listen our rants, and we are getting more sophisticated versions of Little Woman, hopefully with Daniel Brühl or other great German actors.
I think between him and Amy, they're the most poorly interpretive characters in media, because I feel like that they're the most hated. All the time I see people say like, oh, how could Amy do that? That was so awful. Like, thinking of the burning of the manuscript. And it's like, well, for one thing, and again, I blame this on most of the media, you have like a 20-something-year-old actress playing the part of what should be like a 12-year-old. So it comes across more mean-spirited, especially with the Gerwig version. Like, when she's like very calmly just like, well, what was I supposed to do? I didn't have anything else that would have made you upset. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's too sophisticated of an answer for a 12-year-old to say. And again, coming from the mouth of a 20-something-year-old, I can't believe it. Yeah, it's just that it's poorly interpreted. Again, when you have versions that try to be more Joe and Laurie oriented, and yet add Friedrich in, they almost feel like, well, they're trying to just make it, he's stealing Joe away, or Amy stole Laurie away. I don't think most people know that the book, when it was first published, came out in 2 separate parts. there wasn't going to be a second part, but it was supposed to end when Meg gets married. But people always seem like, oh, well, they made her have Joe be married. They made the publishers made her do it. And
it's actually not true.
Right. Some fans may have written to Alcott saying, like, can't Joe marry Laurie? But there was no pressure to get Joe in general married. And I love that Alcott was like, I will not marry Joe to Laurie to please anybody. And it's like, yeah, you go, girl. And then they act like as if Friedrich was a last minute addition. Right. Like, again, I think because people don't know its publishing history, that they think, oh, it was just one book. And then the publishers were like, well, you need to have Joe marry off someone. And she was like, all right, I guess this guy. Like, no. And again, I feel like it's a disservice to Alcott to say that she just threw Joe with this guy. And it's like, no, she didn't just throw Joe to this guy. Like, it's not like he appeared in the last 10 pages. It's like, oh yeah, in love and married. Like, no, she develops a good and full-on relationship between these two characters, and it grows to become love, and which is how the novel ends. But yeah, it's amazing like how people just kind of hear that. And again, I think it's because they see something on the internet that someone writes an article that says, oh, what a shame that Joe couldn't be the independent writer like Alcott originally wanted. And it's like, it's not the full picture, and people just kind of latch on to that. You got to kind of dig a little deeper, or at least have someone that is willing to go a little bit deeper, such as you and myself, that will put it out there for everyone to be like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, now that makes sense. When people say stuff like that, I'm like, you really don't seem to have not only respect for the characters, but not for its author either.